Okay, so I'm back. That didn't take very long. So now we're going to talk about chapter 15, and that is about therapy and counseling. And I get to do that one because I've been a therapist for over 30 years, have a license. That's it back there on the wall, if you can see it. A licensed professional counselor in the state of Oklahoma, and have done that work for the majority of my career. Anyway, so chapter 15 is about some historical things with therapy and who develops all these different theories, and that's important information and you should read about it. One of my big uh, oh, I don't even know what to call it. One of my big I guess I'm a big fan of Sigmund Freud, and you might be thinking, well, he's the one with the weird thing about his mother and all the weird sex stuff that he has in there. And he does have some of that stuff, well, a lot of that stuff in there. But if you study more about his life, then you'll understand where some of those perspectives come from. He had a very difficult childhood, was molested as a child, and so all of that connection with sexuality made sense given what he went through as a child. But anyway, his psychodynamic theory, I think, is really interesting and one of the first kind of theoretical models that came on the scene for psychology, which was pretty cool, and pretty cool that he stepped out, and talked about his theories, and he got different psychologists and psychiatrists together, which way back then, we're talking pre-World War II, was most people just, if they talked to each other over long distances, they really talked via mail, snail mail with each other. So he and several other people in his same situation wanting to develop theories of how to help people improve their lives, they would write letters to each other frequently. And he started a club in and around Vienna and Germany, that was where he would invite everyone to come, and they could come and talk about their theories together and then help each other in development of theories and understanding the situations that different people were in. So I think that's super cool. And without him, I'm not sure where we'd be today. So, some of his theories were a little bit weird, but for the most part, he's on the money. And if you understand the perspective, you'll have a different idea about it. But for the most part, your textbook has a lot of different kinds of theories, and it gives you a high overview of those different kinds. But what we know is that therapy works. And any kind, it doesn't matter what model it is or theoretical model you follow, it will work. The difference is that the perspective of the client and what will work with any particular individual might be different. So any of these theories work, but they might not work with every single person you come across, right? So which is why I say that, I operate with more or less an eclectic thing. I've got probably a little bit more of a person-centered theory behind me, but then I have also studied other techniques and other theoretical models, so that if I have a client that doesn't really work with, then I can pick something else and kind of go into that. But that takes a long time and a lot of practice to be able to do that. That's not something I was able to do straight out of school, but it is a good thing. And now we have stuff like a lot of yoga and mindfulness being added to clinical sessions. And at first, like when I was younger, and a little fresh out of school, I thought, oh, that's just hippie stuff, whatever. And that was not me, pretty conservative. But now, later that I have more experience and definitely have aged, I think that the meditation, the mindfulness, the yoga, it depends on what kind of yoga, but all of those things, what they're trying to do is connect the mind and the body and kind of have harmony between the two. And I think it's even kind of hippy dippy how I explain it, but I think that's really important. And I think that's what people, they may be hesitant to engage in those kind of activities, but I think they really like it. And most people do find some clarity in that and do find some harmony. So if you're dealing a lot with anxiety, that can really help you lower those anxiety scores and help you feel better, get more rest, which means you're going to be more effective throughout the day. There is, at the end of chapter 15, there's talk about ethics, and I just wanted to mention a couple of things about that. So when you're going into therapy, so if you are choosing a counselor, or if you're sending somebody to a counselor or whatever, or you want to become a counselor, there are a couple of things to know. Like, first of all, if you go visit a counselor and they're not telling you about the process of what's going to happen, I mean, they don't have to explain their theoretical model to you, but they should be able to tell you, we're going to meet once a week for, it's going to take about this long. And you should know that these are the things that I will not tell anyone else ever, right? But there are a few exceptions to that. That's confidentiality. And there are a few exceptions to the rule. If you report any child abuse to me or child molestation, anything involving a child, I have to report that. And by the way, every single individual in this country is a mandated reporter. So if you know something like that, you've got to report it to DHS, but more in particular, if you are a therapist. The other things, really the one other thing to violate confidentiality is if you have a plan to do harm to an identifiable individual or an identifiable group, then that needs to be reported too. But if you're just saying, oh, I feel like killing somebody, or, I want to just take a shotgun to the library tower, and you say, well, do you have a shotgun? No, right? You got to check those things out and see if it's a viable action that they're getting ready to take or not. The same thing is true with suicide. They say, like, I just feel like ending it all. Things would be so much better if I weren't here. You need to ask questions immediately. Well, how far are you going with that plan? Do you have a plan for that? And then see if it's like a viable thing that they're really planning and getting ready to do, or then just like, oh, no, I don't have a plan. I'm just generalizing, I just feel bad right now. And then, oh, okay. So, and if someone is going to commit suicide and you're serious, you think they're serious, then you do need to tell somebody else too, whoever that may need to be, right? Put somebody on alert for that. But those are the things that are really big concerns with ethics. I think the other one is what kind of relationships you have with your clients. If you're seeing somebody as a therapist, or you're seeing someone who is a therapist, and they start talking about wanting to meet you for lunch, or meet you for dinner, or meet you at their house, or meet you somewhere else for your session, absolutely 100% not. Unless it's like telehealth, that's okay. But personally going somewhere else with your therapist, no, don't do it. Or if they come and start sitting close to you on the sofa and it makes you a little uncomfortable, move to a single chair, ask them to move, or leave that session and don't come back, right? It's okay for you to ghost a therapist that you feel icky about. Please don't think you have to continue with that therapist. There are lots of people out there that can and will help you. So if you get to one that makes you feel icky, get the heck out of Dodge. There are some unscrupulous people in this career path. I hate to say that, but we see it all the time in movies. And actually, I think the number one reason why people get their license taken away in Oklahoma is because they sleep with their clients. And that's like the number one rule, do not do with your clients. But people somehow still think they're above some of the rules. So if your therapist is making you feel very uncomfortable, they're too close, they're whatever, yeah, ghost them, get out of there, find somebody else. And if you feel very strongly about it, please do report that to the licensing agency, because they'll look into it. You don't have to be involved in the process anymore, but they will look into it. So I take all that very seriously. And I think that's all I have to say about chapter 15, except for congratulations for getting this class finished. You're done. Do your assignments. You're done. I hope I see you in some other psychology or maybe some of the community counseling classes. That would be great. Bye-bye.